Hello, today we're going to talk about cottage garden plants that are easy to grow and take care of for beginner gardeners. Now, I would be amiss if I didn't mention anything about food, vegetables, herbs, because basically your beginning cottage garden were people of lower means that had to grow food for themselves, and all of the flowers that they got were from their lords and ladies of the manor. So most of the flowers that they grew, if they grew any at all, were for medicinal purposes, or such as foods like violets and marigolds that could be part of a salad. So let's start with some vegetables, some easy vegetables that you could put in your cottage garden. Now, some of the easiest plants for me may not be as easy for you depending on where you live at, what your region and your zone is. But in my area in the Pacific Northwest, I am in the northwest corner of Oregon, and the easiest things to grow are green beans, which are definitely not my favorite. I actually don't like green beans at all, but they're super easy to grow here and they're easy to take care of. They do not require a lot of work. The second vegetable that's easy to grow is peas. Peas of any kind. Now, I love peas, except for snap peas. I really don't like snap peas that much at all, but they are super easy to grow here. And I know that these things are easy to grow in the UK as well. And we have a very similar climate with the UK, and our zones are similar. Some other vegetables that are super easy for the beginner gardener to grow are zucchini, which in the UK is known as courgette. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but zucchini is super easy to grow where I'm at, and I would consider that a cottage garden plant, same as all cucumbers, not just the English cucumber, but all cucumbers grow well here in where I'm at, and also squash, any type of squash plant. Squash, I think, recently is considered a fruit, but in my mind, when I grew up, it was considered a vegetable, as was pumpkins. So, um, any type of squash, including pumpkins, winter squash, summer squash, and pumpkins, they all grow really well and they're super easy. You just plant them in a mound, like 3 seeds in a mound, water them, and they grow. And the only thing you have to do with all of these type of vegetables is basically water it and weed around it. It's all five of these different types of vegetables are super easy to grow. So next, let's talk about the fruits. Now, similar to the UK, once again, is berries. Berries are super easy to grow, at least in my region. Berries, blackberries, raspberries, strawberries, blueberries, you name it, like any any berry. As a matter of fact, Oregon, the northwest part of Oregon, is one of two places where the native Marionberry is from. Now, if you don't know what a Marionberry is, it looks like a ginormous blackberry. They're about they can be about that wide and that long, depending on what time you pick them, if you pick them too ripe or not. So berries of all kinds grow really well here, and I would grow them in my cottage garden. Another type of food would be food you get from trees. For instance, hazelnuts. Hazelnuts grow really well where I'm at. I don't know about the UK if hazelnuts grow well there, but hazelnuts grow really well, and I would put a hazelnut tree in my cottage garden if I had the room. Also, pear trees. Pear trees grow really well here in the Northwest. And apples. Apples are another big, strong, easy tree for growing here in the Northwest. I would also put those in my cottage garden. Apples are very easy. I just planted 3 of those. Actually, you will probably see that video next week. Cherries and plums. Cherries of all kinds. I want my next list, my fruit trees for next year are a couple cherries and a couple plums. I want a cherry tree for cherries for pie filling and cherries to eat. And when I grew up going out to my dad's aunt and uncle's house, and they had an orchard, like a complete farm of plum trees. And I loved going out there and picking plums for them. It was good memories. I love the taste of plums. So I will probably get at least one plum tree, if not two, next year as well. But plums grow really well out here in the Northwest. So those are the types of food that you might find in a cottage garden in the Pacific Northwest. So let's get to my favorite part, and probably the part that you guys have all been waiting for, and that is the flowers of the cottage gardens. Now, cosmos are so easy. They self-seed. As a matter of fact, they might self-seed a little bit too well. You might reconsider planting cosmos if you don't want to have to keep picking out seedlings. I've never had it spread so bad that it spreads out of the area that I originally planted it in, but make sure in your area it's not invasive. Like for beginners, hands down, I would pick cosmos. My next favorite annual for cottage gardens that are easy for beginners would be snapdragons. It's kind of funny because I had never heard of snapdragons until about 3 years ago when I discovered Laura on Garden Answer 3 years ago. Um, and I saw her plant some snapdragon seeds, seed starting under grow lights. And then she went back in the summer and had a tour and showed what they looked like later on in the summer. And I thought, oh my gosh, those flowers are so pretty. I got to get my hands on some of those. Why have I never heard of these before? Anyways, so I did. I went and got myself some snapdragon seeds and I grew them the following season. I did put them under grow lights, but they're so easy. As a matter of fact, I put in like, I think I put like 4 seeds per cell because I was worried about them not all sprouting or germinating. And I ended up having to like pull them apart and taking them out because they all germinated. An easy annual for beginners. Now my third my third annual would be marigolds. Marigolds are so easy to grow, at least for me, and they served a purpose as food for salad too. They're easy to get the seeds out of them. So you like once you buy a packet, you don't necessarily have to go buy another one because they're very easy to seed propagate, easy to take care of, easy to get to grow. And they're good at some of them, certain types are good at repelling insect pests away. But there are so many different types of marigolds, and I think they're all beautiful. The next type that's super easy are violas, and I'm not talking the African violets. I am talking the violas that do well in colder temps. And we have some native violets here in Oregon. We've got the streambank viola and the early blue violet, which is Viola adunca, and they're both really great for pollinators, serve as a host plant to fritillary butterflies, and they're just easy to get to grow. And then this next annual is kind of doubles up as a perennial as well, and a short-lived like a biennial is dianthus. There are several different types of dianthus. There's annual dianthus, there's perennial and biennials, and they are all really easy to get to grow. My personal favorite is the Sweet Williams, and they are a biennial, which means they will grow that first year but not necessarily flower, and then they'll flower the following year. Now the Sweet Williams I had, they actually flowered that first year I planted them with the seed, and then they flowered again. And so I don't know, maybe I just got pretty lucky, but they were easy. I didn't have to do anything. They're also easy to seed propagate, to get the seeds from them as well. So super easy. I think there is a certain type of dianthus called pinks. It's the carnations, pinks in the UK, and it's definitely a very easy, good cottage plant for beginners. And now let's go to perennials. Now this list of plants was really hard for me to pick from because the perennials, all of these, there's so many easy cottage garden perennial plants to choose from, and I love them all. So it was really hard for me to pick the top 5 easiest. There's so many more than I'm gonna name here, but let's start with coneflowers, particularly purple coneflowers. They are really easy to grow, easy to plant from seed and transplant into your garden. The hardest thing about coneflowers is keeping the rabbits out of them. At least in my yard, keeping the rabbits out of them is the hardest thing. But they're very easy to grow. They're drought tolerant. They don't need a lot of water. So it's very easy for beginners. The next one I'm going to pick is Rudbeckias and Black-Eyed Susans. There are some annual Black-Eyed Susans, and it also depends on your hardiness zone. They are perennials here where I'm at, and they can self-seed and come back every year, even if they're not a perennial in your area. So they are also another easy perennial to get to grow and continue having them in your garden. And then this third one is geraniums. Obviously not the annual geraniums. I'm not a big fan of the annual geraniums. I know I probably just lost a few of you with that comment, but it's because I have so many invasive, wild growing geraniums all in my yard, and I'm constantly having to pull them, and it's really annoying. So it's kind of turned me off from geraniums, except for I really love the hardy perennial geraniums. I think they're absolutely gorgeous, beautiful, super easy. I have 3 of those plants in my garden and I love them. Next one is Veronica. I love Veronica. I hadn't heard of that plant once again until I watched Garden Answer, and I thought they were absolutely gorgeous, and she said they were good for pollinators. So, you know, if you say something's good for pollinators, I'm going to go get it, grab it, and plant it. So I planted a few in my yard, and now I have like 9 because I love them. They grow so easily here, but Veronica does really well here, and they are great for pollinators. Pollinators are attracted to them. I have 3 different types of Veronica. I've got white, I've got snow candles, I've got 3 white ones. I've got pink First Love. It's called First Love, and they're pink. And then I've got Skyward Blue, and they're a bluish twinge of purple, but mostly blue. Absolutely gorgeous. Love those things. Can't say enough about Veronica. Anyway, so then the 5th perennial is daisies. Daisies are super easy. You do have to deadhead them, and they don't last as long. They don't last through the whole summer like some of these other perennials do, like the hardy geraniums and the Veronica. But daisies are a super easy plant for beginners who want to start a cottage garden. And I'm just going to throw one more in there because catmint. How can you not add catmint into a cottage garden list? Catmint is so easy, and it is definitely one of the cottage garden plants on the UK from eons ago. So let's talk about the shrubs of a cottage garden that are super easy. One, I'm going to start out with elderberries. Elderberries are super easy here where I'm at in the Pacific Northwest, and they kind of double as a medicinal herb. And so I would say they are the easiest shrub to grow around here. They get huge. They're very prolific. They get wide. They basically end up turning into a tree. They get over 12 feet tall around here. So elderberries. And then next, I'm going to say hydrangeas. Hydrangeas are super easy depending on what type. If you get the type that need the full sun or the type that need more shade, they don't need very much pruning. So hydrangeas are super easy and are a cottage garden plant. And then the next shrub I would say is mock orange. They are super easy. The Philadelphia Louisa, I think, is the kind that's native around here and super easy to grow. They also get really big, so make sure you give them room to wherever you plant them. And it doesn't take a lot to take care of it. They grow really super easily here. So the next I'm going to say is viburnums. Viburnums are super easy, and they're very cottagey. All different, there's so many different types of viburnums. You can find ones that grow big. You can find compact ones now in various different colors. They're not all white balls of fluff like the snowball bush viburnums are. There's several different types of viburnums, and if you have a small yard, you can find compact ones that only get to be, 3 feet, 2 feet. So viburnums are super easy to grow here. Next, I'm gonna say lilacs. Lilacs are super easy to grow here. You've got the basic garden ones, the old-timey ones with the big, huge lavender poofs that smell really, really strong and fragrant. My grandmother had some of those in her yard. And then there are also the native wild lilacs around here, the ceanothus, and they make an excellent cottage garden plant, and they're great for pollinators as well. They do super easy here too. So there's several different choices of lilacs to choose from that you can grow in your cottage garden and are easy for beginners that do not take a lot of care. So those are the 5 shrubs that I would choose. There's many more different types of cottage garden plants, but I find those to be the easiest to grow where I am at. And I know people are like, how could you have a cottage garden not mention roses? Well, in my area, roses are not easy. I find roses to be quite hard. They take pruning, a lot of fertilizing, and in my area they get black spot because it's constantly wet here. So in my opinion, roses are not easy, but roses are the most common shrub. As far as plants for cottage garden, I cannot leave out herbs. Herbs are essential for a cottage garden. So the herbs that I would plant for a beginner are rosemary, lavender, thyme. Thyme is actually probably the easiest. I would say out of all of the herbs I've grown, thyme is the easiest. A lot of people have an easy time with lemon balm. I don't have that easy time with lemon balm. I think maybe it's not warm enough or it's too wet here for lemon balm. It does grow, but I wouldn't call it the easiest. I would say for sure thyme is the easiest to get to grow. That doesn't require any care. Same with lavender and rosemary. All 3 of those are super easy to grow without much care. And then oregano would probably be my 4th pick. If you want to plant mint in your cottage garden, I'd highly consider planting it in a container so that it doesn't spread on you. Otherwise, it's not going to be easy and you're going to have to take care of spreading mint everywhere. But if you keep it in a container, mint is an easy plant to get to grow. So those are my top picks for a cottage garden plant for the herbs. So those are my top picks for cottage garden plants that are easy for beginners to get to grow. So if you would like to know more about cottage gardens, as far as like what makes a cottage garden, and the history of a cottage garden, and even if you're interested in knowing what's the difference between a cottage garden and an English countryside style garden, let me know in the comments, because if you do, I will make another video for next month about that. So just like put the little hand emoji or something. Give me a thumbs up or give me a like if you want to know more about the cottage garden style and how it started and originated and what makes it different from other styles. So that's it for this week. Thanks for watching, and until next time, feed the pollinators for me.